Last video I talked about the main bosses from Origami King, and that was a really fun ranking to make, because I enjoyed every single boss, or at least every single main boss from Origami King. But then when we start talking about mini bosses, they're less than stellar. I won't be counting the macho fights for this list, because I do think that they're just a different type of fight compared to the mini bosses in this game. This is only going to be including the Volumental fights, the boss Sumo Bro, and the Handaconda. So because of this, it's only going to be a 6 boss ranking. And of course, I am still trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before summer break hits. It's a ridiculous goal, I know, but if you are not subscribed yourself, or you know a Mario RPG fan that isn't subscribed, please subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. But let's get into the video. I'm not going to hold you guys back anymore. I think that the Fire Volumental could have worked, and it did have some concepts behind it, but it just executed it so poorly, like so extremely poorly, that it's easily one of my least favorite bosses in any Paper Mario game. Well, let's go with the concepts first. I actually do enjoy the concept of the feathers landing on the battlefield and burning you if you land on them. There are some couple of problems with it though. One, it does way too much damage when you land on the Giga Inferno fire, and even when you land on the 3 or 2, which are actually more frequent than the Giga ones. And the other thing is that when you use the Water Volumental, it doesn't actually get rid of them like it does for tape. It just puts them out, which yes, it makes sense, it's fire, and I'm glad that you put the fire out, but it just should have gotten rid of them completely, because the second problem is that when you use the 1,000-fold arms, and it doesn't have all its feathers knocked off yet, you have all of your progress that you made so far with this boss reset. It regains all of its health, and you basically have to start over, because there's just no point in continuing when you just have all your progress reset. It's so annoying, it's so infuriating. I don't like this boss. I went through, with my first playthrough, using the 1,000-fold arms, and I was so infuriated just seeing all of its health regained, and I didn't really know what I did wrong. Obviously, I knew that I shouldn't be using the 1,000-fold arms, but it just doesn't make sense why I couldn't use it. It was just like, hey, don't use your strongest attack because that's too easy for you. That's basically what the developers said, and it's just annoying. They should have done it in an easier way, or just a more noticeable way. And I do like that you had to pull the final feathers out using the 1,000-fold arms, but just all the failed concepts and just having your progress reset makes me really hate the Fire Volumental. I do not like this mini-boss. I swear, the only reason I actually remember this boss fight is because it's so unmemorable and so forgettable, and also how out of place it is. That's literally the only reason. It's so unmemorable that it sticks in my head, which is so backwards, but, I mean, you might get what I'm saying. Whatever. The boss fight itself is really bland. All you really have to do is line your arrows up perfectly to attack certain Sumo Bros, and I guess it's a bit more difficult than you think, but you do have a ton of experience under your belt. Again, this is World 5. I was about to say Chapter. No, it's World 5. So because of that, you have so much experience lining up the arrows for bosses. So because of this, it's just not that hard. And you only really need to do this 4 times until you get the Fire Volumental Magic Circle on the battlefield, and you get the on-switch panel. Once you get those things, you win. All you have to do is attack with the Fire Volumental. It's so powerful, it does 200 damage, you just kill the boss super easily. It just feels like a harder enemy. It doesn't even feel like a mini-boss. It's like between a normal enemy and a mini-boss. It's just like in that range exactly. So because of that, it's just so boring, it's so unmemorable. I don't really care for this fight at all. The Earth Volumental is actually a pretty good boss fight, but I do think that there is one main problem that I'm just gonna get over with now. Olivia just talks way too much. Like, way too much. You don't have the ability to skip it either, which is so annoying. It literally reminds me, this just brings me back to a really old time on my channel, with Stuffwell talking about the jumping tutorials in the outskirts of Holly Jolly Village. That's my least favorite part in Partners in Time, and guess what? It's not my least favorite here, but it's definitely still annoying. I don't like Olivia constantly saying what you need to do next. I know what I need to do next. I can't skip it. I've only played this game twice, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. So because of it, it was just a really infuriating boss fight in that regard. And it's actually really disappointing that was happening to this boss fight, because not counting that, this is a pretty good fight. I actually like the concept of you having to hit its legs and its head and tail into its shell. I actually think it works pretty well for a first boss fight. And yeah, this is a very good boss fight for it being the first one in the game. I think that it's definitely difficult for your first boss, but I think it works. It teaches you really well. But Olivia just keeps talking, and it's so annoying. It ruins the boss fight for me, which is so disappointing. This could have been a great boss fight, a really memorable first boss, but it just isn't because of Olivia. The water volumental is a good fight. What, you were expecting something else? I mean, there really isn't that much to talk about. I do think that if the tutorials weren't in the earth volumental would be above the water volumental. And I do like the water spout concept, where the water spouts push away your panels when you're actually done with them. But that's it. There's nothing really else to this fight. I guess you use the earth volumental to actually dodge his powerful attack, but you also do that in the colored pencils fight. So there really isn't anything to this fight, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's still an enjoyable, simple fight. So because of this, I think it's good. I think it works pretty well. I enjoy this fight. Anaconda is probably the most creative boss out of these 6, so because of that, it's instantly going to shoot to at least the top half. And speaking about me enjoying the fight, because I enjoy the fight, it has to be at number 2. I really like this fight a lot, mainly because it's creative, I like the attacks, and it has some unique concepts. But the reason why it's not number 1 is because the first phase, without Olivia, there's nothing happening. If you just use the legendary hammer, powered up or not, you just instantly shoot her out. It's so easy, and there's no need for the first phase. The second phase, though, it's where the actual meat of this dish is. I really enjoy the second phase. You're basically playing rock, paper, scissors, and it's really enjoyable. You're kind of looking at the Anaconda, seeing what it'll actually play, and it's really fun. And if you lose, you have to use your 1,000-fold arms to block, which is very unique. You don't do this in any other boss fight, so it's unique just to this fight, and I really enjoy that. Also, if you win, you get to obviously pound on the Anaconda, so it's fair, it makes sense, and I really enjoy this fight. I also like after the fight where Olivia just slams you into the door crying. It's really good. I really enjoy that as well, for different reasons, obviously, but I obviously think that this is a great fight that's very unique. Anaconda gets a thumbs up from me. The Ice Volumental is the only mini-boss that I think can actually stand up to the main bosses in the game. Let me explain. There's only 2 reasons why the Ice Volumental is number 1. Its concept and its attacks. I think its attacks are just so creative and so fun. But let's talk about the concepts first, because that's the least out of the 2. So the concept is pretty cool. He freezes himself because, I mean, he is the Ice Volumental, so he just surrounds himself in an ice block, which works pretty well, because what you have to do is that you have to get to the chest, and the chest has the on switch, which turns on the magic circle. The difference, though, is that you cannot use the magic circle right away, because you don't have the magic circle on switch just randomly in the field. You have to go to the chest first, which means that you're wasting 1 turn right off the bat, which I think works really well, because you get that initial damage on you. But after you get that, you melt him with the Fire Volumental, which, I mean, then the concept's kind of over. But we still have the attacks. And let me tell you, the Ice Maze is the only reason that this boss is number 1. I love the Ice Maze so much as a gimmick, and I'm so glad that King Ali actually brought it back for his fight. The Ice Maze is something that's very cool. He basically gives you a path already, just to get to the 1,000-fold arms and to get it powered on. So cool, thank God. But he mixes it up. But he keeps most of it icy. The places that you don't have to go, he just puts a ton of ice on it. And you have to try to remember where exactly everything is. And it's more difficult than you think, because even though you know exactly what you need to make, it's still kind of difficult to make it exactly, even though all you have to do is rotate 3 things, which sounds easy, but in execution it's way more difficult, and that's why I enjoy the Ice Maze. I love the Ice Volumental, and it actually compares to the main bosses, which is pretty impressive. Thank you guys for watching this video. My next video will be on either Origami King or the 300 subscriber game. I'm pretty sure we're at 299 because someone unsubscribed. I hate that person now mentally. But the 300 subscriber game is Bowser's Inside Story. So I'm really excited, and I can't wait to talk about that game because I do have an interesting opinion on it. But of course, I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before summer break, so if you could subscribe, or you know a Mario RPG fan that isn't subscribed, tell them. But of course, I'll see you guys in the next video.